perfect. It's perfect. Down to the last minute details. Hey friends, how's it going? Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the series where I play every Resident Evil. And today, we're going to be covering Resident Evil 3, as well as finishing up the original trilogy. And so first off, I just gotta say, if you haven't played these games, please go out and play them. They are a masterpiece. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, you play as the best Resident Evil character, Jill Valentine, as she tries to escape from Raccoon City. And so the game literally starts off with a bang, as Jill is thrown from a building by an explosion. And as the zombie horde is closing in, she escapes into an abandoned building. So from a glance, it may seem like the movement system in this game is the same as the previous two games. However, there's some significant changes here. So first off, you're much faster in this one, and a lot more agile. Compared to RE1, where it really felt like you were controlling a tank. Get it? Tank controls? Along with the faster movement, you're also able to dodge attacks now. So you could do this by pressing the R1 button if you're not aiming, and if you are aiming, it's the X or the shoot button, depending on your preferred layout. So this mechanic is vital in later encounters. And so this game also introduced what would later be a Resident Evil staple with the quick turn. So you can do this by pressing the run button while you're moving backwards. So you'll learn all of these as you explore the first map in this game, Uptown Raccoon City. So if you've played any other Resident Evil game, you'll soon find your rhythm pretty quick. So this map is a decent size, and it has many different nooks and rooms for you to discover. And it's also littered with zombies, which are largely the same from the previous game. There's a couple like new models and stuff, but other than that, they're basically the same. So as you explore, you'll eventually come across Stars' own helicopter boy, Brad Vickers. So once you save him from a zombie, he'll run out of the room, and you'll continue exploring this until you come across the RPD. And outside the RPD is where our first encounter with the titular Nemesis happens. And unfortunately, our poor boy Brad gets eviscerated by Nemi, who eventually turns his sights on us. And so this encounter also introduces us to a gameplay mechanic I really wish they would have kept moving forward, which is the live selections. So essentially what these are choices that you can make that affect like the path your character takes in your playthrough. So in this instance, you can choose to either flee into the RPD or stand your ground and fight Nemi. I do recommend fleeing if it's your first playthrough, because otherwise Nemi is going to humble you real quick. I died quite a few times trying to take him on in this encounter. So despite your choice, you will enter the RPD, and you'll make your way through the station to the STARS office, and you'll get Jill's trusty lockpick. And as you leave, Nemi's going to try and scare you and try to give you a heart attack. But just try to outrun him, and you'll be fine. And once back out on the street, you'll use your lockpick to access downtown Raccoon City, another pretty sizable map. So there's also two returning enemies you'll encounter on this map, which are the zombie dogs and the crows, which luckily the crows are only in here for like 2 sections, because I hate them. So it's here where the game's dynamic encounters really shine. So like while you explore, you'll meet several mercenaries from Umbrella. However, at least in my experience, this is kind of like a randomized thing. So for instance, in my first playthrough, I met Carlos in the restaurant. And then in my second playthrough, I found him knocked out in the press office. And like as I die in like repeat certain sections of the game, I encountered like different scenarios like this throughout the game, and it was kind of exciting to replay certain sections and just see what would be different. But yeah, so I think that's a really cool addition to this game. So however your game plays out, you'll end up at the cable car and meet several Umbrella operatives, and then you'll be tasked with getting the car up and running, and then you're back out on the streets. And at different points as you're exploring, Nemi will show up and chase you throughout the map. And this is where I'm going to go off on a slight tangent. How come he isn't like this in the remake? Like, come on, Capcom, what were you thinking? You basically perfected this with Mr. X in the RE2 remake. So, like, how come you didn't do this? It's insane that, like, the original Nemesis is way more dynamic and reactive than the one in the remake. Anyway, as you collect the 3 required items in order to get the cable car running, you can also have encounters with Carlos and Nikolai. And these scenes really enrich the characters as they experience like what's happening around them. And you also encounter a new enemy, which is the Drain Demos. So it's kind of like a liquor, but if it grabs you, it spits poison into your mouth, and then you have to go find like a blue herb in order to heal you. And so once you collect all 3 items, Nemi will chase you again. And once you escape him, you're immediately faced with a different challenge. The ground collapses behind you, and you're trapped underground with a kind of a giant worm-like creature called the Gravedigger. And so this fight's pretty simple. You basically just have to quickly hit two switches and escape via a ladder. However, you can easily die if the worm hits you a bunch. Just try to dodge out of the way, and you should be fine. And so once back out on the surface, you make your way to the cable car and get it up and running. However, unfortunately, the ever-persistent Nemesis also joins the ride. And our poor boy Mikhail sacrifices himself, which also derails the cable car in the process. Luckily, we crash right in front of the clock tower and begin what's personally my favorite part of the game. So in the clock tower, you solve a few different puzzles as you assemble a key that lets you access the clock tower. And you also have to avoid some spiders and some zombies in the clock tower as well. And at a point, Nemesis will arrive and pursue you as you run around the tower. But once you get to the top, you're able to ring the bell and help arrives in the form of a helicopter. And the game is over! Yay, we did it! Just kidding. Things can't be that easy. And Nemesis shoots it down, and we have another boss fight with him, which ultimately ends with Jill getting infected and passing out. And it's here where you switch to Carlos for a little bit and head to the hospital to whip up a vaccine for Jill. And so when you enter the hospital, you encounter the hunters from RE1, which they're annoying as ever. However, the new dodge mechanic does help, be able to avoid them. And as you make your way throughout the hospital, depending on which floor you go to first, you either encounter Nikolai or Tyrell, which is pretty, again, I kind of love the just whole dynamic changes. It really encourages multiple playthroughs. You also get attacked by these weird worm things who I thought they were snakes at first, but they attach themselves to you and drain your health, and they can easily swarm you, so you basically just have to start blasting whenever you see them. However, once you explore the hospital and you get the vaccine made, you have to escape the hospital before an explosive from Nikolai blows the place up. So Carlos barely makes it, and he returns it to Jill. And now that we're back as Jill, it's time for the home stretch of the game. So we make our way to the Raccoon City Park, which is filled with both zombies and hunters. And after a few puzzles exploring the park, we stumble across a room where we learn that Raccoon City is about to be bombed by the US government. And as we're leaving, Nikolai drops in to do a big old villain monologue.
I have no intention of helping you.
Because we're nothing but pawns in all this?
In a manner of speaking, you are.
And then we have a boss fight with the giant worm again. And so this fight is pretty simple if you have powerful ammo. You just have to avoid its attacks and consistently, shoot it and whittle its health down. And apparently you can also knock over a light pole to electrocute it, but I only had that happen once, and I was never able to replicate that, so I think it's just really hard to get. However, once you defeat it, you make your way out of the park, and you make your way to a bridge that leads to the final area of the game, the Dead Factory. Ooh, spooky name. So on the bridge, you're faced with a choice. Nemi shows up again, and you can either push him off the bridge or jump off yourself. So if you push him off, you start the Dead Factory on the top floor, and Nikolai is killed by Nemi in a cutscene. However, if you jump off the bridge, you start the factory on the bottom level, and you do get a little boss fight with Nikolai near the end. But either way, the game has you exploring the factory in order to open a door that leads to a fight with Nemesis. And if you stayed on the bridge, the cutscene right before this fight is where Nemi kills Nikolai. So this fight with Nemesis requires you to strategically place yourself so you can fire valves that spew acid at Nemi, causing him to mutate. And once you do it enough times, he collapses, and you get a keycard that allows you to finally leave the factory. And so this is it. This is the final stretch. You get Carlos gives you a radar receiver that shows a missile that is quickly incoming. And so if Nikolai is still alive here, you can have a small fight with him. And if you defeat him, he crashes and presumably dies. However, you can also talk him down and he just flies away, leaving you guys stranded there. So after this encounter, you enter a room with a giant rail cannon. I wonder if that'll be useful. It is actually, because a mutated blob that looks suspiciously like Nemesis shows up and tries to kill you. So it's then up to you to activate the cannon and lure Nemi into its line of fire. And so once you do this a few times, Nemi is crippled, and then Jill delivers her most iconic line.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
And now we gotta escape. So if Nikolai died, we take the chopper he would have used and escape. And if he left, we get a ride from our old pal, Barry Burton. Jill then watches from the sky as Raccoon City is wiped from the face of the earth. some extremely 90s music plays as the credits roll. And that's the video. I want to thank you guys for watching, and please, again, if you haven't played this game, go out and play it. It's perfect. There's not really much I can say. For the past couple months, I've kind of been in like a dry gaming spell, where video games haven't really interested me all that much. However, going and playing these games kind of reignited like my love and my passion for gaming, and it's kind of been really fun to just go back and see the foundations of the franchise that I love so much. But yeah, like I said in my previous videos, these are available on GOG.com. That's GOG.com for PC. The entire trilogy is like $30, but sometimes it's on sale. But I think $30, it's worth it in my opinion for these games. But yeah. So without further ado, I just want to thank you guys. Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I'm excited for the series to continue. Kind of got some wacky spin-offs coming up next. Capcom was really weird in the early 2000s. So I'm excited for that. But with all of that, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.